What's up, Michigan State fans? It's Jacob Kotzik here back for another episode of the Michigan State Spartans Insider Podcast. It's our podcast for Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. Going to talk some football here with you guys today because the Super Bowl just happened. I'm recording this on Monday evening. Um, well, Kenneth Walker was the Super Bowl MVP, first ever Spartan to ever win the award. Technically Nick Foles, Super Bowl 52 MVP, if I'm not mistaken. Um, attended Michigan State through like 8 career passes, but he transferred to Arizona. It doesn't really count. Kenneth Walker does count. You can do the whole Wake Forest thing, but he had more rush attempts, more rushing yards, and more touchdowns in his one season at MSU than he did at his whole time at Wake Forest. He's a Spartan. He went here. MSU is the reason why, you know, collegiately, this is where he had success. And he was amazing. He really was. Watching that was pretty remarkable. The way he had that long touchdown taken back too. I mean, that would have really been the big moment for him, but just consistently was getting solid gains on the ground. Had a couple of explosive plays as well, and deservedly so. He received the MVP award. So, I think it's safe to say people here in East Lansing miss Kenneth Walker a little bit. They haven't made a bowl game ever since he left. It's been 4 straight years. So who could be that new guy? I mean, who could it be? I mean, as far as in the backfield at the running back position, there's one guy. If you told me, hey, this guy's gonna have a Kenneth Walker like season, it's UConn transfer Cam Edwards. He's going to be almost certainly going to be your RB1 next season. And there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic about that fact moving forward. Again, highly successful, productive running back at UConn, was a backup there for a couple of years, got the starting role. This was like the full time starter this season, and was fantastic. I think it was a little more than 1,200 rushing yards on the season, 15 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure had another receiving touchdown. He can catch it out of the backfield as well. He's elusive, um, and yeah, has some breakaway speed. He can take it the distance if once in a while. Really, really good pickup, I think, in Michigan State's portal class. One of the best that Michigan State has had. Really personal anecdote. I had a UConn dynasty in college football 25, the first one that came out. Cam Edwards was. I did a UConn dynasty because I thought it'd be funny because it's more fun to have an independent schedule. They're not a part of a conference in football. They had Cam Edwards, and he was pretty good to use in that game. So, and if he's as good as he is in real life, Michigan State's in a pretty good spot moving forward here. So, but what are some of the reasons? Why is he the top running back again? It's just from a production standpoint, you'd have to think he's going to be the RB1. He was 15th in the country in all of FBS in rushing yards this past season. So you have to think he wants to stay as a starter going into this season. And just looking at the other running backs around him, I'm really optimistic, though, personally, about Michigan State's running back room. I don't think. Again, Edwards had 210 carries this season at UConn. I would be shocked if that number is that high again. He's probably not going to have to be as much of a workhorse, especially given it's a more challenging schedule than what UConn had. They're kind of a high group of five, low power four type of schedule. Like they'll play a couple of, like they beat Duke, the ACC champion. They beat Boston College, had a close game against Syracuse. They played a couple of ACC teams this season, but mostly they're playing group of five teams. It's a little bit different in the Big Ten now, which is, I think it's okay to say, like they're the best. It's the best conference in the country now. It's been 3 straight years. A team in the Big Ten has won the national title. It's different week to week now than of course what he was doing at UConn. But there's other guys behind him that are pretty promising as well. They got Marvis Parrish, more of a down the line type of guy. Excuse me. But he had 700 something scrimmage yards as a true freshman at Western Kentucky. So there's some potential there. They got Jaswin Patterson, a guy who knows what the Big Ten grind is like, is used to being in a backup role. Played a fair amount at Iowa, so I'm sure there's some connections with LeVar Woods for him. And then they returned Brandon Tullis. He was kind of the RB2 for most of the 2025 season, but kind of backslid to RB3 later in the year when Elijah Tout Tolliver kind of emerged as a pretty decent option. Had a couple of long runs. He started getting fed the ball a bit more. But Tolis is back. Jace Clarizio, he's back on the spring roster. A guy who again MSU had to beat Alabama out for him. Had decent offer list going on. Bryson Williams again. They have the RB hybrid running back wide receiver situation. It'll be interesting to see how they use him. Maybe if they try to get him to commit to one position or the other, he might just end up being a receiver because I think they're a bit more thin at receiver moving forward. I think that might fit him the most. But yeah, Edwards. I mean, you just kind of transfer 1 year guy. I think Walker had 2 years of eligibility when he transferred to MSU, if I'm not mistaken. But Walker ended up being a 1 year type of deal because he did so well. He had NFL stock, of course. It worked out for him. But Edwards is a 1 year guy. You're looking at that similarity. You're looking at a guy who can score a lot of touchdowns. That's what Walker was before he came to Michigan State. And it's kind of just slightly under the radar, like a guy who has this history of production, but isn't like this big, well-known name. He was 15th again in the FBS in rushing yards, but on three had him ranked like 39th in the portal, which is just again, that's just kind of weird to me. A guy that productive. I know he has 1 year of eligibility that impacts the rankings. But I thought he should be higher. Personally, looking at some of the ranking, I thought there's a few guys who I think I would rather have that were ranked above Cam Edwards going into it. But again, has a guy who can break a long one. He picked up a bunch of first downs this season. I think it was like one out of every three of his carries resulted in a first down. That's the type of ratio you want to see. About 1 in 10 went for 10 plus yards, so he gets some explosive plays. MSU is also getting his left tackle, Ben Morosky, a really, really good run blocker. So there's a lot of reasons to believe this guy can succeed here. And personally, I am optimistic about it. So, yeah, that kind of sums up my thoughts on Cam Edwards. Thought since Michigan State running backs are in the public sphere right now, I should talk about the next one coming in. Will he be Kenneth Walker? Probably not. Maybe I'll be wrong. Who knows? But yeah, that kind of sums up my thoughts on the subject right there. But yeah, I wrote a quick one on Cam Edwards on this one, some more text-based format on that. There'll be plenty of other articles coming out. A lot Michigan basketball season still heating up, getting closer and closer to March. A little more than 1 month away from Selection Sunday, looking at the calendar right now. So be plenty of coverage on that. Any other football news that comes out, that will be there for that. Hockey's going on right now. They're back to number one in the country. And whatever else is going on at the moment, we will be there for that. You can get the written content at SpartanNation.com or at Michigan State Spartans on SI. Thank you, though, for listening, whether you're on Apple Music, Spotify, any other streaming platform. Thank you very much. Once again, though, I'm Joe Kratznika. I'll see you guys around.